Hello everyone, in this video we're going to figure out how to find the growth factor from a table. So on all these examples we'll be looking at an exponential function. So what kind of pattern does an exponential function follow? So as the name implies, we have the word exponent inside exponentials, and when we think about exponents we think about repeated multiplication. So all of these patterns are going to follow a multiplication pattern. So let's take a look at the first example. Here we have a table, and we see that we're going from 4 to 12 to 36 to 108. So the first thing I want you guys to notice is that if I try to figure out like an adding pattern, like a linear pattern, we won't have a constant rate for all these values. So for example, if I was thinking of this as adding, I know that 4 plus 8 will bring me up to 12, but it's going to take a different jump to get to the next one. It will be a plus 24 to get to the next jump, and then it will take a plus 72 to get to the next point. So we're not going to have a constant linear pattern here. We're going to need a different kind of pattern. So let's try to figure out what can we multiply that will give us from one jump to the next. Or another way to think about it is 4 times what growth factor, what number, is going to bring me up to 12. And that answer is going to be 3. Right? Do you guys see how times 3 fits the pattern? 4 times 3 will bring me down to 12. 12 times 3 will bring me to 36. And 36 times 3 would be 108. So we can think of the growth factor, the multiplying pattern, as 3. All right, let's take a look at our next example. Okay, so here I'm going from 5 to 20 to 80 to 240. Right? So I don't always have to look at just the first two numbers. I can pick any two consecutive numbers and use those to figure out the growth factor. So for this example here, let's think about going from, let's say 20 times what growth factor times what number is going to bring me up to 80. So again, I don't always have to start at the top. 20 times what will bring me up to 80. And that answer is going to be 4. Right? 20 times 4 equals 80. And I can know that for the other parts of the table, times 4 is also going to work, right? 5 times 4 will bring me up to 20. And that 80 times 4 will bring me up to 240. So this growth factor is 4. All right, let's look at the next example. Here I'm going from 18 to 36 to 72 to 144. So another trick that we can think about is, instead of thinking about 18 times what number will bring me up to 36, I can think of this as a division problem. So how can we rewrite this multiplication problem into an equivalent division problem that will help me figure out the growth factor? I can rewrite this as 36 divided by 18, and that would tell me what my growth factor is. So what is 36 divided by 18? That's going to be 2. And you can see that times 2 fits the pattern. 18 times 2 is 36, 36 times 2 is 72, and 72 times 2 is 144. So this is really useful when we're working with problems where it isn't really obvious on what the multiplying pattern is. We can always rewrite it as a division problem. So let's take a look at the last example. So from 4 to 6 to 9 to 13.5. Here, for me at least, it's not really clear on what we're multiplying each time, get from one jump to the next. So for me, I think it's easier to rewrite this as a division problem to help me figure out the growth factor. So what expression can I use to figure out the multiplying pattern from here to here to here to here? All right. The way I like to think about it is, I like to take the next number, the number that's further down the table, and take it by the one that's just before it, the previous one. Right? And it doesn't matter where in the table we pick these numbers, as long as there's two consecutive numbers, two numbers that are right next to each other. So for this example, let's take 6 divided by the one right before it, 4. And so 6 divided by 4, what is that going to be? Right, that's going to be 1.5. All right, and we see that times 1.5 will bring me to the next jump. Times 1.5 will bring me to the next one, times 1.5. So the growth factor is 1.5. So one thing to keep in mind when you guys are trying to figure out the growth factor from a table, it's going to be a multiplying pattern, and we can always use next divided by previous to help us figure out that pattern.